Hi guys, in this video we are going to learn about what is February Revolution. So, February Revolution actually took place in Russia during the year 1917 in February, on February. So, this actually happened when socialism, the ideas of socialism was blooming in Europe. So, let's know what was the revolution. So, as written, it occurred in the year 1917 on the month of February. So, what happened on this in this February revolution is that um, a huge lot of workers, liberals, and radicals in uh, in the Russia actually came into Petrograd, that was the capital of Russia at that time, and started protesting against the government or the Tsar. So this I have written this diagram out here. It's not a diagram, just a rough view. Like this is Petrograd, and there is a river in between. That is the river Neva. The name of this river is Neva. So to the right of this river Neva, this is flowing towards this direction, and to the right of this Neva, there were like industries, workers, uh, that particular um, people, like, and this particular thing, part of the river had fashionable sites, like the the place where Duma met, or the palace where the Tsar lived. I'll come to these points, like what is Duma, what is Tsar, why this revolution took place at last. Like, let's learn what happened in this February revolution first, and after that we'll learn about what were the causes. So the protest actually started at February 22nd. Government announced. Okay, so all the people's Protestants who were who protested were workers, liberals, and radicals. I come to even these points, who were liberals and radicals, and even what were the condition of workers at that time. Why it all happened and took place as February Revolution. Let's learn what it is right now. So all these people, workers, liberals, and radicals, uh, came from the right bank to the left bank, like from the place where there were industries and workers and all, they came to the luxurious site, like where the Tsar lived, where the Dumas were kept. So Duma is nothing but okay. Let's learn what is Tsar first. Tsar is just the ruler of the empire. So the ruler of that empire at that time was Tsar Nicholas II. So he was like a king, monarch, and Duma was a parliament. Duma was like a parliament which consisted of politicians, um, that's it, and handled some legislative works of the empire. So these protesters came from the right bank and to left bank to protest. So what happened is the government launched a curfew. The government announced a curfew in this particular region, so it was no use of coming of these Protestants. So everyone dispersed by the evening back to their homes. So that happened in the day one of the protest, that is February 22nd. So we know now what happened in the day one of the protest. They just came and started protesting. Yeah, and there's one more point. Uh, Women too led the protest. So even a lot of women took part in this protest, and this particular day came to be known as the International Women's Day. So now we know that why this International Women's Day is celebrated. it is celebrated on the memory of this particular incident. Like even women took part in this protests against this Tsar. Okay, so let's learn day 2. Next, what happened? So in day 2, what happened is, that is February 25th. So now you'll ask, after after day 1, that is 22nd of February, uh, did the protesters did not protest on 23rd and 24th and all, but they actually did not, because they found out that if they again protested, the government would again launch a curfew and it would be of no use. So what special thing happened on day 20 on 25th is the Tsar, who is the king, dismissed the Duma. Dismissed the Duma. So we'll come to know why he dismissed the Duma right now. So as we know, Duma is a parliament, like it controlled the legislative works, or the political works of the whole empire. So the Tsar actually dismissed the Duma because he wanted to have the whole power and not give some of his powers to Duma. So he dismissed the Duma itself. He dismissed the parliament itself. So when he dismissed this parliament, the politicians who were a part of this parliament revolted against him itself. So people who the politicians who were in Duma started protesting against the Tsar. So using this opportunity, what happened is that the protesters, who were the workers, radicals and liberals, came back to the left bank, and they joined with the politicians. So now what happened is that the politicians were like leaders for the protesters who had come on day 1, had a leadership of these politicians to protest against the Tsar. So this is what happened till now. Now let's know what happened. What happens next? So after all of this started to happening, the Tsar asked his cavalry to attack these Protestants. So those who don't know what is a cavalry, I'll just write it down. Cavalry are just the soldiers who ride on horses in those times, in the past. So that is what is a cavalry. They are just a troop of soldiers who rode horses, and not like the tanks or any other particular defense equipments that we use now in the modern days. In those days, they used the horses. So we were in that. Now the Tsar has ordered the cavalry to attack the Protestants. So what happened is the cavalry refused the Tsar to attack on Protestants, because they wanted the protesters to protest on Tsar, and they wanted the Tsar to come down from his position. That's because of the reason for that was the World War One. In the World War One, Russia had lost very badly against the Germany and Austria. So that was the reason that the soldiers, the cavalry was very unhappy with the Tsar and they wanted a revolution in the country. So I'll write down the next points. Okay, these are the other points. Like the politicians revolted against the Tsar, the protesters utilized this opportunity and came back to protest again, and the cavalry refused to attack the protesters to defend the Tsar. So now we know all this. So at last, what happened is the Tsar had no power left because the people of his own country were revolting against him. His own troops of soldiers were not in a position to listen his orders, and he had also dismissed the Dumas. So his own political supporters were against him again. So all these peoples, like the politicians, the protesters, and the cavalry, made a group, and that group was called as the Soviet. That is Petrograd Soviet. So that is Petrograd Soviet. So this Petrograd Soviet made a council. Um, so this Soviet asked the king to resign from his post. They asked the king to abdicate. Abdicate in the sense they asked the king to resign from his post. So the king had no power, he had nothing. Everything was against him. So he had to resign from his post of being the ruler of Russia, and now the whole power was in the Petrograd Soviet. So this Petrograd Soviet formed a provisional government. So this Petrograd later formed a provisional government. That's about the February Revolution. Now let's see why all this happened. Why February Revolution took place. I'll just erase everything. So as promised, I was about to tell why this took place. Who were radicals and liberals, condition of workers. And the peasants. Yeah, I have forgotten. I had actually I even forgot to add the word peasants in the protesters list. Like I have added workers and radicals and liberals. There were even peasants who protested. So now let's first learn who were radicals and liberals. So radicals